Hey, y'all. You're listening to Diagnosing Sitcoms and Movies, the DSM podcast. We help make mental health more comfortable by using Black movies and shows we know and love and culture to remove stigma. So join our convo with your host, Courtney Copeland, licensed mental health counselor.
And Dr. B, licensed professional counselor.
Hey, Rosie.
Hey, girl. Hey.
I'm so excited.
Why are you so excited?
Because this episode, we're talking about Boyz N The Hood. And I know I say this a lot, but this, like, for real, is one of my most favorite movies of all times.
I see, because you got the whole setup with the plaid and the hoodie right now.
I'm ready. Button it up at the top, like a real LA.
Yeah, so why is this your favorite movie?
Well, I think just personally, I grew up as an only child for a very long time. And so lots of time was spent me chilling by myself watching this movie on VHS.
Wow.
Just be honest.
You know, I don't know if it's like the clinician in me that's like, a child should not see this movie. And then the fact that like this is one of your favorite, and you turned out okay, but I definitely don't think that this was an age-appropriate movie. Because as always, I put in context as to what year I was when this movie came out, and I was 1 year old. So I can imagine you watching this as a child at like 6, 7, maybe 8 years old, and it's still not appropriate. So what was it that made it your favorite part? Like what were some things that were your favorite?
Really, I just appreciate it. And I think this is some of the feedback that the movie got overall was just the honesty of the movie. I felt that the characters were very like realistic. And so I could see real life people behaving the way that in their conversations and the decisions that they made and some of the just day-to-day, like regular, like when they would be in a car on the porch, just having regular conversations. Those are my favorite because that's what I like to do. I like to just chill and have like real conversations about what if God was a woman? The sun, the moon, the quasars and all that stuff. Like
Listen.
Ice Cube said, like it was just real honest. And I think that John Singleton did a great job of making the characters very relatable, very realistic. He used a lot of context from his own personal life in writing the film. And I feel like it comes across very well. And it's a well-written movie. It's a well-directed movie. The actors acted the hell out of all of their parts. I just appreciate it so much. It's so great. And it had Ice Cube. Ice Cube was that dude.
Wait, didn't he like side with Trump on something recently? Or
I'm talking about 1991
Okay.
Ice Cube. I am not talking about 2020. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Because right now he acted like an African beauty scratcher.
So many like kids that I know that grew up like either their parents are from Africa or they immigrated from Africa said that they were called African booty scratcher. And so I was so like intrigued. I asked my mom, I was like, did it come from that movie? She said, no, girl, we were saying African booty scratcher when I was a kid. I don't know where it came from.
Listen, that is like one of the worst terms ever. You know, especially like when you think about it from a multicultural like perspective, you know, you get there and it's like, damn, that's very culturally insensitive and inappropriate. But that was, I remember saying it as a kid at one point, several points in my childhood. But anyway, so African booty scratcher, that whole little scene at the beginning with him as with Trey as a kid was actually kind of funny.
I loved it. Like, and was sad part was like, he's like, I ain't African, you African booty scratcher. But like, y'all are friends. And like, they got into a whole like serious argument.
Like, and now you from Africa. I'm from Africa, you from Africa, you African booty scratcher. Quiet. Punk, I'll kick your ass.
Okay. It stopped from just being ha ha ha, and then he was like,
I'll get my brother, shoot you in the face. Get your punk ass brother, bitch. I get my daddy. At least I got one, motherfucker.
Right. I ain't your bitch.
Ain't your That's bitch. It. Enough. Ain't nobody's bitch. Bobby. Bitch.
Like, wow. That just got real. Like, all
it went 0 to 60.
Like, real quick. Like, I was like, wow. So, that whole scene was like, that little whole dialogue between them, that argument is a quotable within itself. So there's that. And then, of course, I wouldn't be me if I didn't like the most important quotable is the very first quote in the beginning of the movie. And that is...
Let me hear what you think that is, because I'm probably going to differ. Go ahead.
The very first quote in the movie. It literally is, 1 out of every 21 Black males will be murdered in their lifetime. Mm-hmm. That was the very first quote in this movie. Then the second quote is, most will die at the hands of another Black man. So immediately when I saw the first quote of 1 out of every 20 Black males will be murdered in their lifetime, I'm like, by a police officer. And then like 2 seconds later, it was like, most will die at the hands of another Black man. I was like, that part too. And then I noticed that I paid attention, especially more this time watching the movie, to the Black officer and his demeanor.
Officer Coffee with his bitch ass.
Right. So I'm not going to even get into that because I know we're going to go through the movie, but those were some of my quotables. So I'm going to shut up and let you go and do yours.
No, I definitely appreciate the one that you just named. And I think that John Singleton did such a good job. Like, I feel like Boyz N The Hood had such a message behind it. Like, they even had the whole Increase the Peace movement that came along with the movie.
Right.
And like a bunch of other films that came along after Boyz N The Hood, trying to like recreate that same energy, they didn't have that message. They just were like stories of struggle, pain, and trauma. But Boyz N The Hood like starts off after it lists those quotes. It shows the stop sign and it zooms in on it. Like, stop all that shit. Stop all this bullshit. Like, yeah, this is going on, but we need to stop. And to me, that felt almost like a Spike Lee wake up moment. Like, right. It started with that. And so I really appreciated that. I thought that was cool. But again, I'm a goofball. So, and just dark humor. So my first quote is also from the beginning of the movie. But again, because I watched this movie as a kid, like, I always knew, like, when it was coming on, the first thing that I hear is, they shot my brother. They shot my brother. I don't know why that's my first quote, but I didn't feel pain in it when I hear it. I'm always like, it's time for Boyz N The Hood.
Oh my God.
I'm like, let's get started. They shot my brother. I'm ready.
You know, it's so interesting that that's the mood that you get. Cause I'm like, oh shit, this is about to be sad. And I'm like, I go into a sad place. I don't get excited with these types of movies because it's sad to me. But go ahead.
And then going back to when they were kids, and he was like, they were looking at the crime scene, and the boy said something smart to the little girl, and she was like, at least I know my times tables. I was like, yes. Girl, let him know that he's a dumb little boy. Let these boys talk to you however you know your times tables. You're gonna go further in life because you can multiply.
Listen, that is a very important mathematical technique. She had the clap.
I have too many quotables because I have like a whole list. I like when Furious is talking to Trey about using condoms, and he's like,
I don't understand why you insist on learning things the hard way, Trey, but you're gonna learn. Oh yeah, you're gonna learn.
He meant that.
Yes, yeah. And it was interesting because that was a quotable listed where he was like,
"Pilling will keep your dick from falling off."
And that's it. See.
Another good Furious quotable is when he is talking to the boys and actually the neighborhood about gentrification. He's like,
I know every time you turn on the TV, that's what you see, Black people.
Yeah.
Selling the rock,
Right.
pushing the rock, pushing the rock. Yeah, I know.
And the old man is like, yeah, damn. Instigating.
Right. Oh, instigating.
And then there were a couple that I just liked the way they sounded when I was little, but I was little, so I couldn't say them. Like I couldn't repeat it. So now I use them regularly in my just regular life.
Do share.
When people say hello, I say, what up, nigga?
Why?
Regina King just made it sound so cool. What up, nigga?
Okay.
And then when they are about to seek revenge on the other group, the other gang, when they say,
turn off the lights. Hit the lights, nigga.
And the other group is at the table and he's like, why you putting all that ketchup on your fries?
Why you worried about it, fool? Eat my fries.
He did say that with hella pride.
These are my fries. And then when they start shooting at them and they take off running and he say, don't follow me, man. Go your own way. I said, this is not a game of hide and seek. Like that is...
Right.
Because again, I'm a child. So my mind goes to, when do I say that? I say that during hide and seek. Apparently you also say it when you're dodging bullets.
Wow.
I have a question. Who is your favorite character in the whole film?
My favorite character in the whole film. It is Furious Styles. Yes. If I could pick a dad that I would want to have, it would be Furious Styles. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to name my dog Furious once I get one.
Do it.
Come here, Furious. Come here. But I love it. I love that name. But I love his character. Like he was the best character for me.
And Lawrence Fishburne said that he does get recognized a lot for that film and that people like started looking at him in that role. And he said that he was having a conversation and he realized like that he basically through this film became a father figure for an entire generation.
Oh, listen. Yes. More than a generation. For as long as this movie is out, because I mean, just the way he parented, you know, and in the first few scenes that you did see, you know, baby Trey, and like the little moment where they're, you know, at the ocean front, and you know, he's like, you know, he's talking about sex with him, and it's so interesting because the conversations surrounding sex in the Black household sometimes it doesn't sound like that,
or they're non-existent.
They're not, or they're not.
Just don't.
Right. Just don't. And so I think it was really positive to see like understanding and talk about sex and diseases, because even the conversation with Dookie, right? Like him talking about, you know, well, I get head I just get head from him. And they like, you can get HIV from getting head. And he's like, for real? So, you know, just like instances like that, you know, just helps. Like, I like the message. Like you said, there are so many layers of messages and, you know, things to take away from this movie. And that was one of them. But especially just seeing how Trey Styles went about, Trey Styles.
That is his name.
Furious, right. No, Furious Styles went about talking about sex with his son continuously. It wasn't a one-time topic.
Which is so important because you had that conversation one time. A child possibly might not remember that, but it seems like he was really instilling stuff. Like when he was basically giving him the rules to live by, kind of like it was something that Trey was able to repeat back to him. Look a man in his eye. He'll respect you more because of that. Like he was listing things that you could tell that Furious had talked to him about multiple times. Furious was such a good dad. He was such a good dad. And like the talks about sex, like his just role as a parent and him sharing his experiences with Trey, because, you know, sometimes parents can not want to be honest with their children because they feel like, well, if I tell them too much, then they might not respect me, or I'm ashamed of these things, so I don't want to share them with my child. And
or
he
they're
was very honest. Yeah, he was very honest with Trey. And I think that was just so awesome. Furious was awesome.
He was like the best. And I also feel like with him as a father figure, kind of like he said, like he is a father to a lot of people in this generation or the next generation. But also I think he makes a point. I think the movie makes a point that it's important to have a father figure in the household, you know, because it's, you know, even with the subliminals of, well, at least I got my daddy or, you know, and stuff like that. And so it's just like, at least I got one, motherfucker. Right. Or like, you know, as soon as he said the three principles, you know, and the next scene, you know, oh my God. Doughboy. Yeah. Doughboy and Chris are in the police car. And the second one is, there's no reason for you to steal. There's never a reason for you to steal. And so, that's what they went in for. And then that hurt my heart because then I was like, that's where it is, you know, the criminalization of little black boys. I don't know how you get happy when you watch this movie. I just was like,
because it brings to life all of these, it brings to life all of these concepts. Like, where the breakdown of the family, he's saying like, I'm just trying to teach you how to be responsible. Like your friends across the street, they don't have nobody to teach them that. And so they do end up in those situations where it is the over criminalization of little black boys, the failing education system where they're in the class still learning about pilgrims and Indians. And that is not the story of Thanksgiving. It is inaccurate. And also she's talking about squash. Black and brown people don't eat squash on Thanksgiving anyway. So like, she's just, and then she has her arms folded, showing terrible body language that she doesn't want to be there. And she's closed off to her children. She does not sound enthusiastic or excited about being there. And I feel like it's almost dangerous to have true knowledge because Trey had a father who talked to him, told him the truth, said that we all come from Africa because we do. And like, she was threatened by him having additional information. She was threatened by him knowing more than what she was teaching out of that book. And so was trying to be funny by having him come up to the class and teach the class. But he really actually gave them a jewel.
All right, does anybody know what the name of this place is?
That's Africa. I know that.
That's right, that's Africa. But did you know that Africa is the place where the body of the first man was found?
It's almost just as dangerous to have knowledge as it is to lack it. Because either way, you will be attacked. Okay. I'm still excited about the movie.
I feel it. So
my favorite character, because I am an ignorant fool, is Dookie. I love Dookie. He is a hot mess. It is so hilarious to me.
Gosh. I just like his hair. He's cute.
He wasn't cute. He was goofy looking to me, but
he was so cute. I was like, oh, he's cute, but he didn't take out that pacifier.
Girl, when Trey came and sat next to him and he offered
it. Girl, I swear I never noticed that he did that.
See it every time.
I wonder what his response was like, because I feel like that was not in the script. That wasn't.
That's why he looked at it and looked at him like, boy, get that on my face.
Like, they caught it on film. It was genius. Like, that is so funny. That was a good one.
It's just so many small, subtle stuff. Like, yes, it's gross that he might be out here getting dope head pussy and not know that he can potentially catch AIDS from allowing people to, you know, give him. He said, "You really catch AIDS from letting him suck your dick?" Yes, so I'm glad he had friends who cared about him enough to tell him the truth.
At least.
But if you look at like even the pictures that they have where they're chilling on the porch, Chris is sitting on the stairs, and Dookie is sitting in his wheelchair.
I did remember that.
He just gives me so much humor. I just love it. Makes my heart full. We all need that level of ignorance just sprinkled throughout our days.
I guess you're right. Chris was annoyed too because it was just like he's rolling around and like rolls up to the curb and he's like, yeah, kick this. And it's just like, if you don't stay over, where you?
You see how he bounced down them steps? This is family business. Let him fight.
like, stay your ass over there.
No, but wait, when they think it's about to be a drive-by and they say, pick Chris ass up.
Who's them niggas?
Man, pick Chris up, man.
Yes. I don't get it. Why? I would be like, bro, retire. Just retire. Retire from the streets. Let it go. He was like,
the actor who played Chris actually really was a paraplegic. Well, paraplegic. He had actually really caught a stray bullet. It was lost the sensation in his legs. So he was playing that part, wasn't acting. It was true to life.
Well, and so to me, I'm just like, if I ever come across someone that's still in that life and they are like disabled because of their lifestyle and they go back to said lifestyle, I'm just gonna be like, when are you gonna let it go?
But is it his lifestyle if it was a stray bullet? And then there's so much like foreshadowing, and I think it's so smart. Like at the very beginning when Doughboy and Chris are walking away because Trey has to break the leaves. Doughboy is walking and Chris is like pushing, like on his knee, pushing on the thing, on the skateboard. And I was remember, like, is that because he later grows up to be in a wheelchair?
Oh.
And then he says later on, he said, both of my brothers got shot and they still alive. And he said, yeah, they lucky. And so like that means that all three of them, him and his other two brothers, are victims of gun violence, that they all got shot and then they continue to live. So it was like so much foreshadowing. They all got shot and then Chris got shot, but he still lives. He's pushing on that skateboard and then ends up in a wheelchair. I was like, see what you did there, John Singleton.
I never looked at it that way. And I remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, I used to ride the skateboard like Chris because I was scared to fall. So the closer I was to the ground, the better. Just roll over off of it. Oh, I hurt myself. So, but anyway, wow, I didn't think about that part. But I think to me, like, I would think that having that experience, that it would cause some type of, it's a traumatic experience that I think that someone would want to be away from that environment and not be so much drawn into it. So whether it was like a stray or whether it was actually being involved in gang or gun violence, to go back into that neighborhood and then somewhat kind of like just like thrive in the life, like, you know, like the life of being like a stoop boy.
Would you feel like, I almost feel like there was almost a certain level of normalcy of it to him so that it was comfortable. Like if you know that all your brothers got shot and then you got shot, then that's just what it is. And then too, like they had, when they were walking, before he asked them if they wanted to see the dead body, he was like, my brother, I got a deuce. My brother gave it to me before he went to county. It's loaded too. Like that's the opposite of how children should handle firearms. But there's just a certain level of normalcy that comes along with having guns, holding guns, people being shot, like to where it might not cause that level of separation. Or he might not feel like he needs that level of separation from it because it's just what happens to people.
But still, it's like the trauma is being taught. So then that kind of goes into that post-traumatic slave syndrome where the trauma is still being taught, that oppressive trauma is still being taught to us.
Yeah, I didn't count it so much as the post-traumatic slave syndrome, but I did diagnose like the entire neighborhood as having acute stress disorder. Like everyone who is experiencing all of these things is going to have a certain level of reaction to it because it's not normal. People aren't made to have to withstand this much of just chronic things happening back to back to back. And so I diagnosed the whole neighborhood, all of South Central LA, as having acute stress disorder just because of the situations and circumstances that they were forced to live in with all of the violence, the crime, the poverty level, the constant surveillance by the helicopters and the police officers, the drive-by shootings that was happening, like all of that together. I just diagnosed the whole neighborhood with acute stress disorder.
Facts. That's big facts. And then also one of the things that I realized what John Singleton did with this movie, where it showed the lifestyle of Doughboy, and then in comparison to the lifestyle of Ricky, and the day and what they had to go through, and then what Ricky and his day had to go through. And then also, so it seemed as if, it didn't seem, Ricky and Trey were in school. They were preparing to take the SATs, and so I think that's why, to me, I value education the way I do, because it seemed as if like there was only two options. It was either the streets or education, right? And so then I chose education, and then within education, at least I was lucky to be able to like school or enjoy school, whereas some people don't have that type of passion. And so like maybe someone like Ricky, for example, would find passion and wanting to go to school for football and sports and extracurricular activities. And so that's what keeps them active and doing well in school. And so to me, it feels like Doughboy, he fell out of the pipeline. They call it a pipeline and higher learning. And so when you look at that pipeline and you look as if it's like a road, Ricky,
he fell out of that one and fell into the prison pipeline.
He fell into the prison pipeline for Doughboy, and then Ricky unfortunately fell into the other pipeline of being dead, and so like, to me, it's like the life of a Black person or a Black man in America is just like, you only have one or two options. And even if you do take it, get on the right path, or you take the right path, somehow, some way, something could just fuck it up. And you're dead because you're Black, because you live in a community where they like to kill for fun. Like, that shit is fucked up. Like you're at a disadvantage in comparison to every other culture just by being born in a certain neighborhood. So like,
and
I feel like
realism expressed in the film is why I love it.
Oh my goodness. Like, I think this is probably one of a film that I would definitely watch with my teenager. Yeah, let's watch this together. There's a lot of lessons.
President Bill Clinton said that he will want children in these neighborhoods to watch it because of the honesty. The violence isn't glamorized. It's portrayed in an ugly, hurtful way. And so he said that he will want kids from these neighborhoods to watch it and see the need for like the realism that was expressed in the movie and all of that. So,
I just got an idea. So I'm about to ask to teach a substance abuse course, because I would actually use this film and have students do a diagnosis, but from, a substance abuse perspective. Because then again, the same concept, like, okay, so Chris got shot, but he didn't go to jail, right? He was rehabilitated in a way for his body physically, but not rehabilitated, for going back out and being able to have a job, an actual job. So maybe he was actually selling drugs, right? And so then you have the mother who's down the block letting her kid run down the street and offering to suck dick for said drugs in this neighborhood.
Got some blow, got some rock.
I suck your dick.
Yo, no, at the end of the movie, when Cube was like, get the fuck out of my face, I said, oh, he mean that shit. Oh, bitch, right. You better go. You better get the fuck up out of there. But he just served the other feed like right before. It's just, bitch, you picked the wrong time.
Not right now. He was talking about his brother and he was upset.
Bitch, not the fuck right now.
But the point that I make it is that, I feel like it is relevant to talk about this from a substance behavioral health perspective, because a lot of times it's assumed that some people who have drug addiction is like they chose it. And in some cases, it was already like forced upon them. It wasn't a choice in some cases, and then their environment, the environment that they grew up in and have to return to it's all like connected. It's so systemic. And so I think that this would be an amazing movie to break down systemically,
I feel like the sad part is that people don't see that already, and that you have to have these films in order for some people to get it. That's the frustrating part for me.
Well, that's all of white America.
Yeah, that's why I don't fuck with them. I really don't care what is going on with the majority culture. None of that has anything to do with me. I'm not doing anything to serve them. I hope that all of my work is just for the liberation of people of color, because that is what I'm concerned about. And what they are doing over there has nothing to do with me. And clearly they feel like I don't have what I'm doing don't have nothing to do with them neither, because they act like they are blind to it. And that's why you do you over there, boo. I'll do what I do over here. And so returning back to the movie, for this podcast, which is also for the liberation of people of color, and that's why we focus on Black movies. So with all of that being said, let me come back. I'm sorry, I almost went there. So when Furious house was getting broken into, and I guess he went back to that military training and went and got his stagecoach gun, shot at dude, pum pum through the door. Did you realize that man ran out of his high-top Chuck? How do you run out of a high-top Chuck?
It wasn't even tied on right.
It was a high-top. How you come out of a whole high-top? That means you was really trying to get up out of there.
He was high-tailing his ass up out of there. That's what he got. He high-tailed out of his high chucks up out of there.
Oh, shit.
I just thought that scene... The police, that scene was a transition to like showing us the dangerousness of the time with the home invasions, and due to the substance abuse that was going on at the time, people were experiencing high levels of home invasion to trying to feed their habit. And so the police response that comes after that, though, is so poignant. And I am almost glad that Trey saw that at such a young age, so he had that understanding that all the police are not your friend.
Yeah, that was about an hour ago.
Whoa, we didn't ask you that.
Yeah, well, I told you.
They might sometimes be friendly. They might come to your school and read a book every once in a while, but at the same point, they're not your friend. And this instance was that. And when he says like, "What's up, little man?" and goes to like shake Trey's hand, and Furious said, "Go in the house, Trey. Go ahead." Like, do not give the respect of this man of looking him in the eye and shaking his hand, because
Something wrong?
Something wrong? Yeah. It's just too bad you don't know what it is. Brother.
And it took them forever to get there. Like how Furious said, if I did get him, he'd have been laid out here. And he would have been laid out here for an hour because it took y'all that long to get here. Which is just, there's so much over policing, but when you actually really need them, that's when they want to take forever. Which I thought that, again, Trey is learning all of these lessons very young. Going to school, he's walking to school and they go see a crime scene. Mm-hmm. And so he then has to go on about his day after it's like seeing brain matter on the ground. And that's when the blood separates from the plasma. That's why it's turning yellow. Like, you then have to go into a classroom and with this underpaid, terrible trash teacher who does not want to be there and try to function. Like, I can see why they got into a fight. Like, for a child, you are trying to go about your day and you just saw brain matter. Like, that's not normal. You are going to that is going to come out in some way of behavior because your brain can't fully comprehend all of what it is that's going on. And this is the little boy that said, "Come on, let's go see. You want to see something?" They said, "What? Nothing. I'm not telling you. Do you want to see it or not?" Like, so yeah. You the one who showed this to me, so now you know what? Yeah, I got an attitude.
I want to see a dead body.
You saw it with me. You shared in this terrible experience with me. Me and you have a problem. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely could see how that happens. And I just hate that was, of course, because of the school to prison pipeline, he got suspended for that fight, which there do need to be consequences for actions because that's not how you cope with things that you're handling. But if they had a school counselor there that could have even talked to him and said, "Well, I thought that you and this little boy was friends." And so then they could have had a conversation to get at why the fight started. Because yes, you need discipline. He do need to probably be suspended. You can cuss the boy out in front of the whole class and beat him up with the teacher's pointer. But he also needs to know, like, this is why this fight happened. This is why it's not okay. Somebody at the school should have had that conversation with him as opposed to the teacher just calling and saying, "Oh, are there problems in the home?"
Right. That conversation was disrespectful as fuck. I was like,
and I'm glad Angela Bassett got that heifer together, because that is not how you interact with the parents of the students that you're teaching. And she should have known that. And I was frustrated that she interacted with the mom like that, because it did sound like at first, like, yeah, the mom is going to be mad. Her son is getting suspended. But there's a way to have that conversation. Even if you really was concerned about something going on at home, there's a way to have that conversation where you're not being disrespectful or accusatory to this parent. Because of course they want what's best for their child. I had questions about like their co-parenting, on why it went from, first of all, she did a whole behavior contract with like a 4th grader.
She did.
Angela Bassett was like, you are a young man. You are going to behave as such. Sign this contract. And did you feel like Trey needed to go stay with Furious in order to be able to fully get all of the teachings that Furious had to offer? Or do you feel like they could, if they had a stronger co-parenting relationship, that it could have been handled differently? Like, do you feel like he needed to go stay with Furious?
I think they made the right decision. I mean, obviously him going to go see him on the weekends wasn't working, and he was still having anger issues. And so I do think that, you know, co-parenting is more than just doing like, the weekends and doing what each parent feels like they want to have happen as far as like the attention and time with the kid. Yeah, that's great. But then that's also a life. So you have to also remember that your selfishness of wanting that kid to be with you can also be a barrier or a burden to your child, you know? And so I think that them choosing to say, okay, well, he stays with me for this period of his lifetime, or, you know, that actually helped him in the long run versus trying to go back and forth for years, you know, and that's tiring, that's draining. And so if you could find a system where you know that at a certain time period in a child's life, like especially developmentally, one person will be better suited than the other, then go for it. I feel like, but I also feel like the two of them as individuals were very, very strong, educated, you know, people, you know, and unfortunately, I don't think that is the type of parenting that a lot of people can do. So I think it also depends on the individual, their maturity, you know, and for them to have had him at 17, they were handling very, to me, maturely, you know, for their age at that time. So I think they did what they needed to do. I think it was the best decision for him, because I mean, not saying, I realize how much I value education. The fact that Trey went to Morehouse, you know, like, I think that to me, that's a way of showing that he grew, that was a level of success for him, you know, that was something that he was able to accomplish because he's not dead, you know, in comparison to everyone else. He's not dead and he's not in jail. So if he's in college, hey, great. Hell, if he was a manager of McDonald's, hey, great. At least you're not fucking dead or in jail. You know what I'm saying? So I think
Calvin's got a job, y'all. That's funny because that was a commercial that was out.
Got a job, y'all. At that time. Oh my gosh. Yes.
That example, and for John Singleton, that was his out, was education, was going to college. That was his way of getting out. And so we talking about Trey, like as a youngster, we meet him, we meet his friends and see a little bit about that background history. And then we fast forward 7 years and we're at Doughboy's, I guess, coming home party. His release party?
I think this is like his 4th one or something.
Oh, sheesh. Well, hey, we celebrate each time you home, brother, because we still love you. As much as mean as his mama was to him, she still really cared about him, even though she said,
you ain't shit. You just like your daddy. You don't do shit, and you never gonna amount to shit. All you ever do around here is eat, sleep, and shit.
Damn.
But I do feel like she still did love Doughboy, because like even when he got arrested, like you could tell that she was upset and she kind of spoke that into him, but she still was hurt. And so Brenda was a very complex woman.
She was, I mean, but I still feel like she did hate him because of how she responded to his reaction with Ricky, or the situation with Ricky.
Yeah.
You know, even with the fight, he got slapped. Why you slap your mama?
Damn. What you hit me for? What you hit me for? Why you hit me?
Yo, dope. Why she hit you?
Shut the fuck up. But yeah, and they reference it like quite a few times that she loved Ricky more than she loved Doe because she liked Ricky dad more than she liked Doughboy dad. And that's not Doughboy's fault.
It's not.
Doughboy's fault.
It's not. And then see, here I go let me get on my platform right quick. Okay. Here we go.
Because, let me help you up there.
You know, I really do feel like we have to understand pro-choice is not a bad thing, because I feel like whenever a woman does not want to have a child, it's going to continue. Like the whole pregnancy is going to be miserable. The child is going to come out miserable, and then anything can happen to that child, and the experience with that miserable mother is going to be there. And that child is going to have all this childhood trauma because of this miserable mother who did not want to have this child. And then you have a situation like Doughboy. And I'm not saying that like abortion isn't out or anything like that, but there are certain situations where I'm just like, okay, let women make the decision for themselves to relieve themselves from things that they know in their gut is going to end up being something bad. You know what I'm saying? And I think that because there's so much stigma associated with abortions, because there's so many laws and limitations with abortions, that women can't make choices that are best for themselves. Especially if you know that you don't like that motherfucker that you're about to have a child with, and you end up pregnant and you know you don't want that child. Listen, sis, that's your decision. I'm just here to let you know I'm pro-choice, and I think that most people should become pro-choice because this shit is bullshit. Okay? Y'all having these children out here and y'all making their lives miserable. The end. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. That was very opinionated, but it's okay. That's my truth. I'm living in it.
Well, I can't support. I definitely feel like that people cannot be pro-life, but then not actually support people throughout their lives. Like, so if you're saying that this person has to have this baby because you feel like you have some reason that your opinion should matter in someone else's life, I don't know why, but then you should also support the actual life that comes from it. And we should have more supports for people so that they can, once after having this child, even if it is pro-choice, if they say, you know what, I just don't believe in it myself. I want to have this baby because I don't want to, have an abortion. That's just not what I believe in. That's fine as well. There also should be more supports offered to those people so that they can have healthy, productive relationships with their children, and they can support them, and they can make sure that all of their needs are met. And I don't feel like that is the case with the systems that we have in place. I don't feel like those are the ideological beliefs of the people who say that they are pro-life. They don't support the lives that come from that embryo that they're fighting so hard to protect.
Exactly. Because you don't know how that child was created and where that child is coming from,
Girl, did you just pull me up on the soapbox with you? Let me get down.
Okay, let's get down together. Want to hold hands? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay.
Okay, so we are coming into we find out that yes, Doughboy has been in and out of the correctional facilities, I guess the prison system, the industrial prisonized complex system. Ricky has a baby with his in-house baby mama who has come to live with them. But so that is going on with them. Trey is in school and he's dating Brandy and he's being a horrible boyfriend to her. And then the story ensues. Okay, so jumping right into Diagnosis, we'll talk more about the film as we talk about the different diagnoses that we have for each character. I just wanted to say that it is important to note that most of the characters portrayed in the film are still kids at this time. And even though they are experiencing like extreme situations and society often tries to adultify our children, they were still, for the most part, adolescents. So I tried to diagnose as such as well. highlighting the fact that these were still teenagers. They might have been going through some serious situations, but they were still teenagers. Who would you like to start with, Rosie? Dr. Rosie.
Ooh.
Make sure I put your title. Put some respect on your name, girl.
Put some respect on my name. All right. So let's start with Doughboy.
Okay.
So I would say oppositional defiant disorder.
Me too.
Ow. And I will also say, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so yes, I also say oppositional defiant disorder. And I did have an additional one, though, because of what we saw of his mother and child relationship. I also diagnosed him with mild reactive attachment disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Reactive attachment disorder, which is also sometimes referred to as RADS. You may have hear it called that as well. Its criteria is a consistent pattern of inhibited, emotionally withdrawn behavior towards adult caregiver, manifested by the child rarely or minimally seeking comfort when distressed, a persistent social and emotional disturbance characterized by limited positive affect, episodes of unexplained irritability, sadness, or fearfulness that are evident even during non-threatening interactions with the caregiver. And then also for him, the child has experienced a pattern of extremes of insufficient care as evidenced by social neglect or deprivation in the form of persistent lack of having basic emotional needs met for comfort, stimulation, and affection by caregiving adult. What you think about that one? You agree or not?
I agree.
And then for oppositional defiant disorder, which we did both agree on, we can go through the criteria quickly for what that is, which is a pattern of angry, irritable mood, argumentative, defiant behavior, or vindictiveness lasting at least 6 months as evidenced by symptoms for different criteria. Angry or irritable mood, often touchy or easily annoyed, is often angry or resentful, often deliberately annoys others. To me, the example of that was when the girl was like, why every time you talk about a female, she got to be a bitch, a hoe, or a hoochie? And he was like, because that's what you are.
Yeah, you act like you ain't never had no barbecue before. The ladies eat. Hoes gotta eat too.
Wait a minute, nigga. Who you calling a hoe? I ain't no hoe.
Oops. I'm sorry, bitch.
Nigga, fuck you. And then vindictiveness, or having been spiteful or vindictive at least twice within the past 6 months. For me, I felt that was representative when he caught up with the dudes that had killed Ricky, and he got out of the car, went all the way up to them, made dudes, like, shot him, made sure he was dead, made dudes turn over so that he could shoot him in his face, because that is what he felt like he needed to do to be rectified for the harm that was brought to him. He needed to be able to see dude and shoot him. And I thought that it was funny that Mad Dog and Dookie was in the car like, what are you doing? Man, I'm on parole. Ain't this about a bitch? Because they didn't understand. It was like, no, we did it. We got to get out of here. And but Doughboy was such in that place where he was so hurt, and with the ODD diagnosis of that vindictiveness, that he needed to feel that retribution at another level. And so to me, that's part of why he made dude turn over. Oh, yay, we agree. Who else? Who's next?
I was going to diagnose Dookie because of his pacifier use. And I looked up, I didn't look up like a pacifier. I looked up thumb sucking. And so any adults or like adolescents who are thumb suckers usually have experienced childhood trauma. And so obviously the case of all the individuals in this particular neighborhood have experienced some form of trauma in one way or another. And so I would diagnose Dookie with generalized anxiety disorder because of the pacifier.
That's a good one. I didn't give Dookie a full-blown diagnosis, but I completely agree with the one that you just gave. But I did speak to his fixation at Freud's psychosocial oral stage of development.
Yes,
and so one of the theorist who is very popular in our field is Sigmund Freud, and he had psychosocial stages of development. So basically how children grew into adults through certain developmental stages. And he, to me, was at an oral fixation. So that means that he didn't get through that stage successfully. So he was fixated on seeking pleasure from his mouth, because when he wasn't sucking on a pacifier, he was sucking on a 40 ball. So, which is common for people who have that. It could represent as constantly needing something in their mouth, or overeating, or alcoholism. So those things kind of went hand to hand.
Yeah, I was actually looking to see, I was looking in the feeding and eating disorders. But then I also thought maybe it would be in the compulsive disorder section. But I couldn't find anything as far as like the chewing part of it. So if that's one thing I would want to see in like the future DSM, is to include other oral asphyxiation, like
not asphyxiation.
No, delete. Daniel, delete that. Delete. Oral fixation.
You can't keep saying his name every time you mess up. Some stuff we are keeping in. It is okay to mess up and keep going.
No, it is not. I don't want that in there. No. So oral fixation on for like, chewing. I think nail biting is on there, but I don't know. So
in that oral fixation, Freudian says is like it comes from like a certain level of dependence on the caregiver. I wanted to know more about the oral stage of, or the fixation at the oral stage, because like, do you also want that from others? Like the fact that he did offer his pacifier to Trey, the fact that he is getting head from Hypes. Like, so is oral sex a part of receiving and giving oral sex? Is that a part of, is there some level of satisfaction that comes from that if you do have a fixation at the oral stage? Do you want other people to have shared that in that fixation with you? Like, so do you want to share the bottle that you're drinking on? Do you want to share your pacifier, what it is that you are sucking on, or whatever it is that is in your mouth? I just wanted to know if that like went hand in hand with it. And that is why he saw so much pleasure in getting head from Hypes, because why else would you want to get head from Hypes? Because that's nasty.
I guess, girl. Your theory, stick to it, girl.
Okay, what ifs? All right, who's next? That's Dookie. Who's next?
I don't know. I did two. Those were my two.
Oh, okay, well then I have several more.
Wonderful.
I diagnosed, I have two that I wanted to work through with you and talk about and get your opinion on. So for Brenda Baker, I have either a moderate severity of persistent depressive disorder, it's also known as dysthymia, with mixed features, intermittent with major depressive episodes, or borderline personality disorder. Which one do you think is more fitting?
Depressive.
Okay, so the dysthymia, I'll go ahead and read the criteria for that one. So that is a disorder that is represents a consolidation of defined chronic major depressive disorder and dysthymic disorder. And so, which sounds like a lot, but it basically has, for her, there would be presence while depressed of low self-esteem, feelings of hopelessness during a 2-year period. And so I definitely felt like she kind of felt hopeless in her situation and was depressed most of the time. And that came out in her irritableness towards Doughboy and just being mean, period. Because she was like,
so tell me something. How come your daddy don't come over here and play cards with us no more?
I don't know.
I know he don't think he better than the rest of us. Must be too busy shooting at people. I heard what happened over that other night.
He still got that same girlfriend?
So to me, that went with the low self-worth as well. And with the mixed features, that would be the more talkative than usual or pressure to keep talking. And that reminded me of when Fierce was like, Brenda might have had a chance if she ain't talked so much. Mm-hmm. And the flight of ideas or subjective experience that thoughts are racing. Because even when she was fussing at Doughboy, it seemed to just be coming out of nowhere and bouncing to different places. Like, and where are you going, you fat fuck? You ain't got no job. Oh, that was so mean, but he just wanted to get away from you because you're cursing at him.
Jesus.
And I just thought that I felt so bad for Doughboy because of those experiences that he had. And then seeing how she did treat Ricky. Like when the recruiter came, they was wearing matching outfits.
I know. I didn't notice it before, but then this time when I watched it, I was like, oh shit. They actually were matching shirts or like matching colors.
And then for her, I wanted to know if you thought that, like, so because of the differences in the treatment of the children, because she felt about the fathers, do you feel that she was really in love with Doughboy's father and he broke her heart and really broke her? And so she then grew to hate him and then was just okay with Ricky's father, so she loved him more? Or do you feel that she just didn't like Doughboy's father and Ricky's father she liked a little bit more? Like, which one do you feel like would be more impactful for you to treat your children so differently?
I would think that he must have done something really bad to hurt her. I think it's coming from a place of hurt, not so much like a hate. Is that he definitely hurt her. Like, he might be happily married with someone. Like,
the displacement of the hurt.
Exactly.
Hurt people.
Exactly.
Which is sad. I diagnosed Officer Coffee, and I feel like all sellout Black people, all self-hating Black people, I just assume that they all have dissociative identity disorder. I feel like they can't handle the weight of being Black in America. And so they dissociate and they create these other self-hating identities where they feel like they are above their Blackness and they get to just terrorize and be evil to Black people because they can't handle being Black themselves.
You think you're tough. You think you're tough, huh? You're scared now, huh? I like that. That's why I took this job. I hate little motherfuckers like you. Little niggas, you ain't shit. Think you're tough, huh? Gonna blow your head off with this mental.
I hate Officer Coffee, everything that he stands for. And I also wrote him into Prognosis.
Wow. Well, for me, I'm thinking when you mentioned that Officer Coffee, it made me think about the interaction he had with Trey, where he had him at gunpoint, and to me, I'm like, don't you recognize this kid? Don't you remember him?
No, you probably one of them rolling 60s, huh?
And I wonder, if he would have shot him if he remembered him. Or if that would have been a different interaction had he. But that's all I wanted to say. It was just interesting that they had another interaction again.
Right. And I think that's what makes it so hurtful, is that people, I think society as a whole says that they love Black children when they're small, but they don't love them once they become Black adults.
Yeah.
And I think that's so ugly. And one thing that I hated that Officer Coffee said to him was,
blow your head off with this influence and you couldn't do shit. How you feel now?
I hated that. That was ugly.
Yeah, and that is what it feels like sometimes. And being Black in America is that they could do anything to a Black person's body and there's nothing that most of us can do about it. That's what it feels like. And that's where that hopelessness comes in, or helplessness is like, I feel sometimes helpless when I see the continuing like the shooting of Black and brown bodies by police officers, because it's like, I feel like I'm helpless. There's nothing I can do about it. So
I definitely understand. Fuck Officer Coffee. But going forward, I felt that Ricky had an unhealthy, exclusive, athletic, and fatherhood identity. I felt like he only saw himself as an athlete and as a father in no other no other form. And I felt that was unhealthy for him. And I felt like it is partially what contributed to his death, because he was, even at doing, like, people always say, oh, Ricky could run a good 40. Like, why didn't he zigzag? And why didn't he, like, he was an athlete. How did he end up in his situation? And I felt like off the field, even those athletic skills seemed to leave him. Like, he wasn't, Doughboy was kind of whooping on him when they was fighting. So for Ricky to be the strong athlete, Doughboy and his chubby self is still like kind of, he's the one who's on top and you're on the ground. If you watch when, after he gets bumped by the other gang, and he's like, I'm still trying to figure out, nigga, whatever. And then they come back and start shooting. Ricky falls, gets up, runs the opposite direction of the car out of this, like, out of the view of the camera, runs back in, like, gets up, runs back in, and then goes to the car. So it's like, Ricky just wasn't off of the field. He was not together. And then, and then, like, he had these series of bad decisions. Like, I'm going to pee right now. Like, right now is the time where I should pee. And then let's split up. And then I'm going to run straight. Like, I'm not going to get against the wall. I'm not going to lay down. Like, I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm just going to run straight. It just felt like he couldn't make, while he could make quick decisions on the field, he could not make those quick decisions in life. And so I felt like him seeing himself only as an athlete and only as a father was kind of detrimental to him. Because there were so many other things that he could have been. He, for instance, he didn't see himself as a student. And so that's why he didn't feel like going to college was even an option towards the end of the movie. He said, I'm just going to go to the Army, which I feel like is part of strategic ad placement. If you do pay attention, especially after 9/11, they use that competitiveness, that athleticism, that sense of tribalness that comes from watching sporting events. And there are a lot of military advertising that happens during sports games to try to play off of people's emotions to get them to see themselves as soldiers or in the military, to try to, as for recruitment strategies, which I feel like is insidious and that's evil, and you're playing people to get them to risk their lives for you. But, you know, that's what this country do. So, you know, there's that. And Trey reminds him what his dad taught him, that Black men ain't got no place in the white man's army. So I did not diagnose Trey with a full-on disorder, but I did diagnose him with being a fuckboy.
Why?
Because despite having good foundation, good parenting, good direction for his life, he is like Lawrence from our episode on Insecure, where he's the worst kind of fuckboy because he thinks he's a good dude. He was very manipulative towards Brandy. He was giving her the silent treatment. He was trying to manipulate her towards having sex with him, which was, that's not what you're supposed to do for somebody that you care about. And then I felt like because he was so spoiled, from like even Furious talked about how his mother was spoiling him. And that's something that you have to be very careful with when you spoil your children, because that can lead to a sense of entitlement. And he was afraid to have sex, but then felt like, okay, well, I'm ready now. So Brandy should be giving it to me. Like I deserve it now because I'm ready for it. I wasn't ready for it before, so I didn't need it then. But now that I'm ready, you should just be giving it to me because you're my girlfriend. And had her going against her morals and what she felt like was right. And then was even trying to say, well, we're going to get married. So it's almost like we married now. And then she was like, okay, well, then wear my ring. I ain't ready for all that yet.
Like, excuse me? Like, why you get so... I ain't ready for all that yet. Take it. That exactly. I'm not ready for all that since you ain't ready for all that, dummy.
Exactly. And that's what she said to him. Like, oh, but you ready to act like we married, huh? And so... I felt like there was that. I felt like he was very, he picked and chose when he wanted to be a good friend to Ricky. Like, yeah, he was supporting him and telling him, like, you don't have no place in the white man's army. He was down to stick up for him when Ice Cube or Doughboy, we got a problem here. Like, Trey was right with him. We're going to stick up for Ricky. You're not going, punk my homeboy. And then, but I felt like Ricky got in the car and told him, the recruiter from USC is coming tonight. That is big news. That, especially for someone who is in high school, who this is his chance to get out of the hood and everything. And he has this big school that is interested in him and is coming to his house that night. And Trey just was like, oh, yeah. Anyway, I never lied to my father before because I was scared that I'm a virgin. Let's talk about my problems. Be happy for me. And then he was like, oh, I was scared. And Ricky, being a good friend, it was like, well, what was you scared of? Like, yeah, he thinks it's funny, but he's still like, what is you scared of? And then he said, being a daddy. That is so insensitive. You gonna say that to this boy who was a teenage father?
I mean, but it's a real thing, though.
I mean, yes, it's a real thing. And yes, he got it, but it's the way he said it. I just felt like Trey just wasn't a good friend. He wasn't a good boyfriend. And I hope that him becoming a Morehouse man, they shaped and molded him into a better guy. Yeah, and I felt like he was very like high, he had real high emotionality. And I feel like we saw that throughout the film. I felt like he didn't know how to control his emotions when he was younger. So he did seek to fighting, like, because even the rude teacher was like, he's very smart. He's very capable. He just has these angry outbursts. And I felt like because he didn't know how to control his emotions then. And then once he got older, it came out as him crying and throwing punches in the air.
I'm so fucking tired of this shit.
I thought it was funny. I was laughing at it.
I did too. The first time, like when I was younger, I used to be like, oh, he's so hurt. I felt like how Brandy felt. But then afterwards it got funny, and it continues to get funnier each time that I watch it. But I feel like that speaks to his high emotionality. And I felt like Brandy in that moment did not know how else to, like, she saw that pain that he was experiencing. And I felt like she didn't know how else to offer support aside from offering up sex. And I feel like that is something that happens a lot in interpersonal relationships, is that person either through trauma bonding or through that person experiencing some level of pain, and people really only knowing how to offer up themselves physically through sex or through sexual acts to support that person. And I felt like that came from, one, a certain level of immaturity, and then two, her not knowing what that support looked like herself because she didn't have it. And so I just got me thinking down the rabbit hole of what does that support look like aside from offering sex. But as a teenager, would you even know that? So prognosis, how do you feel like Reva and Furious will go forward?
I feel like they're going to continue to remain good friends and supportive of Trey, throughout his life. I like their relationship. I think they have an interesting relationship and communication style, especially like when she was like, sit down. Like he was going to check her in the restaurant and then get up and leave.
Sit your ass down. She said all of the syllables.
Excuse me, I'm going to get some cigarettes.
No, you're not getting off that easy. Sit your ass down.
Excuse me?
I said sit your ass down before I raise my voice and make a fool out of both of us.
And then said, and the coffee's on me. Like, and she said, you're a good guy, but you ain't all that. And see,
no, what she said was,
go ahead and say,
be cute.
But don't think you're special. You may be cute, but not special.
Right. You might be cute, but not special. And I think that is something Trey needs to be told clearly. But then I think that that's what he needs. And it was kind of like that little smirk that he had, like, she's the only woman that could do that to him or say something like that to him, because in any other instance, he's come off as like the very educated, strong, like black man that like don't nobody, like, people walked up to him to hear what he had to say when he was talking about what the gentrification that was happening in the neighborhood. So to have him kind of not be, I don't want to say submissive, but just to kind of like, listen and sit down shows that I think he has a lot of respect for her. And they have a lot of respect for each other in their relationship. So I think they're going to do well.
Mm-hmm. And I felt like, I don't know what Reva was going to school for, but we saw that her apartment was laid. So after she got her master's, she must have had her a good little job.
Right. I said she got real bougie on us, didn't she? She was already bougie, but she got real bougie after that degree.
Mm-hmm. And so I felt like while they clearly got on each other's, didn't work well as a couple anymore. They still, had a little flirting in that, even in the arguments that they were having. So I don't feel like they necessarily ever get back together, but they still do always hold a candle for each other. And I feel like co-parenting for them will get easier as Trey continues to get older, as I think Furious can help Reva let go a little bit because he is going to be going to college. He is going to be making more of his own decisions. And so I feel like he can help with that. And like you were saying, I hope good things for Furious because he was so aware of everything that was going on and talking about the gentrification that was happening and saying like, we need to keep everything in our community Black, and just thinking of Ujamaa, which is the Kwanzaa principle of cooperative economics, and really feeling like, yeah, Furious, you're right. That's what we as Black folks do need to come together. We need to, the same way that other ethnicities are able to keep money within their own community, that is something that we need to strive to do. However, every time I think that, I also get hung up on the fact that we've done that before multiple times. And every time that we do that, the US government destroys it because they systemically are trying to kill us. Like Furious also said when he said they want us to kill ourselves. They aid in that as well. But the one way to destroy a group of people is to take away their ability to reproduce themselves, which is something that we continue to see as well. This video was just telling so many truths. It's truth, but it's hurtful. And I see Furious kind of getting away from, because Trey is getting older, I see him wanting to do more for others in his entire community as well. Because one thing that he said to Trey kind of stuck out to me was when Ricky died and Trey was going to go ride with them. He was like, I'm sorry about what happened to your friend. That's their problem. But you, my son, you, my problem. And so, while I don't think he should have called him his problem, I do think that Furious will start to see his entire community as his problem and less of just, I have to focus on my own now that his son is older. If Brandy was my client, she needs some assertiveness training. And I hope that Spelman teaches her that.
I hope so too. Yeah, because she let too many things go and was still trying to come after him. But I when I was younger, I let a lot of dumb shit go. That should have been red flags. But yeah, she could use some better communication skills for sure.
Yeah. I'm hopeful for also, I feel like Brenda needs to be put on a mood stabilizer ASAP. After losing Ricky and then 2 weeks later losing Doughboy too. I feel like that's a lot. It just was. I feel like she definitely is going to need some grief and loss counseling, because also she lost her where she praises and her punching bag. And so is the baby mama going to continue to live with her? Because if so, then is that going to become the new dynamic for her? Is she going to then beat up on the baby mom but praise the grandson? So I need to know what that would look like. And is the baby mom, her name was Shanice, if she do stay there, because she took the SAT too, so is she gonna go to college and just stay there long enough for her to finish school and get help with the baby so that she can leave? I don't know, take her maybe a course or two so she can get certified in something and get up out of there. In my mind, Officer Coffee, he got turned over to internal investigations because of all of the terrible policing that he was doing, and his partner snitched on him because he's still Black. And so he ends up doing time. The inmates become aware that he is former LAPD, and then he's forced to create a third identity in order for him to survive and cope with all of the stuff that the inmates do to him.
They was whooping that ass.
What do you see? Well, Doughboy, I felt like, even though he did die 2 weeks later, I felt like we also saw him go through like the 5 stages of grief for Ricky, like within 24 hours. I feel like he had that bargaining of soon as he said like, shit, Rick, I got to get there. Because if I get there fast enough, then he won't die. Like it'll be okay. And then the sadness when he saw him on the ground and like was holding his head, I think then he went to the denial of let's take him home. Why are we taking him home?
That's the same thing. I said, why? And they put him on the couch. I said, even with all the plastic on the couch still gonna get the blood stain. Mm-hmm. And that damn couch.
That couch. And then there was so much blood. He was blood soaked by the time they got him out of the car. Like, why? And then one thing that was concerning to me, when Trey got out the car, he was, Joe, let me out. He went to the bus stop. No one was alerted that this man is covered in blood, getting on. Like, even the man at the bus stop was just listening to his music, bopping along. Trey get out the car, soaked in blood, and he's just still bopping along. Like, oh, okay. Like, what is going on in this neighborhood that everyone is okay with it?
It's normal. People just walk around with blood like that all the time.
But then, yeah, I think Doughboy, he cycled back to sadness when, trying to be there for his mom and she got upset with him. I think that pushed him into the anger place where they felt like they needed to ride on these people for killing his brother. And then he had the retaliation. And then the next day he got to a place of acceptance, like real quick, when he was like...
Next thing you know, somebody might try to smoke me. Don't matter though. We all gotta go sometime. Seemed like they punched the wrong clock on Rick though, man.
Like he had got to that place of acceptance within the next day. And I think that is a testament to, granted it's a movie, so they had to make it happen fast. But I also think that it is a testament to how like Black people aren't allowed the opportunity to really grieve and process things because there's so much, okay, the next thing, like this isn't stopping everything else that we have to take care of, that we have to get done, that we have to experience. So I don't have time to stay in these feelings. I have to move on to the next thing. And so that can lead to maladaptive coping and everything, but it just was, he didn't even have time to fully process it. He just went through them whole things in 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I feel like even sometimes with like police shootings, like for a minute, they were happening so frequently that I think for a while, America got real numb. And I'll speak for myself. I got numb. And then it wasn't until Ahmaud Arbery where it was just like, I felt the gut hit again, as if it were the first time of me hearing the other times when those people were shot for the first time again. Like it all happened again. And then it was just like this amount of anger and sadness. And then it frustrated me how quick I had to get over it, because then it was another shooting. Mm-hmm. And then there was George Floyd. Mm-hmm. And, it's just kind of like, I guess I understand why Doughboy, was like, okay, I have to move on, because if you grieve all of those individuals every single time, it's like a piece of you is gone every single time. That's what it feels like. And it happens so much that eventually you'll lose yourself with all the people that are gone.
Right. And like he was grieving that at the same time of like going through the relationship with his mother. He's like, I don't even have a brother. And then was like, a mother neither. She loved that food more than she loved me. Like, it's like he just came had to, so heavy. So heavy.
It would have been heavy for him. So I hate to say it, but he would have either gotten killed or he would have killed himself with all the guilt and grief he had.
No, not killed himself.
I think so.
I don't want to think that about my doughboy. Which can we talk about how they call him Doughboy?
I know, right?
His nickname was Doughboy.
His nickname was Doughboy.
I wanted somebody just to push his belly so he'd go, woohoo!
He made it a nice name. He made it a third name.
Afterwards, it's because I get that dough, boy. But when you was little, it's because you was fat, bro.
Right.
Which I did appreciate, even though he was fat and he was like super young. He still was trying to stick up for his brother when he got his ball took at the beginning of the movie by Sharif from Menace to Society. So I guess prognosis for that character was he was a gangbanger and was stealing little balls from little kids, and then, you know, got knowledge himself and became Sharif from Menace to Society.
That's what had happened.
Yep, I felt that about a couple of the characters. I felt like Mad Dog, you know, he rode on the people that killed Doughboy. So he got retaliation for Doughboy. Then, you know, he had to lay low. And then he became a driver's ed instructor and was the dude from that he played in Don't Be a Menace to Society while drinking your juice. And so
Oh, makes sense. Okay. All right. You know, it was interesting because I was really surprised to see them walking the street after they shot, you know, and killed the three of those men. And and there's, you know, I don't know. I guess in my mind, I thought like they would have been arrested or like going through interrogation or something at some point. Because I mean, there was like a long period where people could identify the car and the people that were screaming from it. So I was like, wow, like this is really easy investigation that's happening. They're going to be caught. So like 2 weeks later for him to be killed, I'm like, damn, well, I guess the police weren't quick enough. And like he said, they don't care and they don't hear what happened in the hood. So it's like, I didn't even say it right.
That ain't what he know.
That's why I be like, why you got me saying quotables and you know I can't quote nothing for shit?
Because you're supposed to at least write them down.
Shit. That long
Either they part. Don't know
or they don't show.
No, that's not all of it.
That's what you get what the heck I said. All right.
Either they don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's going on in the hood.
And on that note,
Trey, okay, let's wrap it up. What do you feel like prognosis for Trey is?
I think his prognosis would be, I don't know what Trey's passion was. It's hard to know what he wanted to do because I know Ricky wanted to go into business or computer science, but I don't know what what Trey's interest was. But anyway, I would see him being successful. I don't think that he's going to marry or be with Brandy.
I hope not. At least not right away. They both need to grow.
But that was the goal, remember? And so
that's just what he was saying, to get them draws
after college. I know, that's so true. Yeah, I see him being the fuckboy, still being very much like his daddy. His just being a bachelor for his whole life. The end. That's my prognosis.
Well, I feel like hopefully while at Morehouse, Trey does, get a little bit more self-awareness. I think he could use some empathy building on how his actions impact others. I hope that he does not get married to Brandy right away. I hope they continue to support each other because they are in a new city together, going to college at the same time. If they come back together later on in life for a relationship, okay, maybe, but right away, no, because of this trauma bond that they share, and he just was a fuckboy to her. I want to know if he potentially has future survivor's guilt because of the situation with Ricky, witnessing him pass, hope Ricky dying in his arms. And so he might need therapy for that. I think I would probably use maybe narrative therapy or expressive therapy, just something so that he can get those feelings out and learn how to regulate his emotions in a more healthy way, because that is something that he struggled with for a very long time. And since it is autobiographical in my mind, I feel like he will, like John Singleton, find his way in creating content or media and be a successful young man and help Furious give back to the hood. I just wanted to point out lastly that one question that they got asked like at 3 different points in the movie. At the very beginning of y'all want to see something? And then it was the crime scene. And then y'all want to see a dead body? Mm-hmm. And it being, yeah, see, he ain't messing with you, so don't fuck with him. And that just being a normal thing. And then Furious later on asking them, like, y'all boys want to see something? And that was the only time where they were kind of like, do we have a choice? But it was the one time that it was something positive. Mm-hmm. And so just the experiences that are and the choices that you have growing up in the hood and the different avenues that you could take, where you could have bad influences with the kids showing them stuff that they probably shouldn't see, or have good influences with Furious dropping knowledge and dropping jewels and gems on them to take them forward. So, all right. So if you would like to support the show to help us get more content out to you guys, you can visit our website and follow the Support the Show link to become a Patreon member or donate on our Cash App. Now, we're happy to get the kind of money that jingles, but we'd rather the kind that folds. And as always, be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you get podcasts and leave us a comment, because we are counselors and we actually care what you have to say. Until next time, peace.
Okay, bye.